The luxury watch world is a multi-billion-dollar industry with some pieces costing more than your house. Rolex, Patek, AP, Omega, and Tag are all the usual suspects.
But let's be real, most of us can't drop 5, 10, or 50 grand on a timepiece. So we went looking for something else.
And we found some micro brands doing some amazing bold designs at prices that won't get you divorced.
Today we're testing how these underdog brands stack up in design, wearability, and utility, and seeing if they can make you feel like $1 million for the cost of a drunk night with the homies.
But here's the real question. What makes a micro brand? To break it down, we brought someone who's an expert at this. He breathes this world, my friend Miguel from SoCal Watches. Miguel, welcome to the show. And please walk us through this because I'm really excited to talk about these watches.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you for having me, Lex, Tony. Pleasure to be here and a pleasure to be talking about microbrands. If you're into the watch world, you know about microbrands, and if you're not, you're about to know what that's all about.
Miguel, what's on your wrist?
Wrist check time.
Wrist check.
Canopy, Wake 1, stainless steel.
What about you?
I got, my trusty handy AP Clover perpetual calendar.
I have the Seiko Polo Zebra 2823 5020.
So tell us what actually qualifies a brand to be a micro brand.
A few factors, but let's limit it to 3, right? So low production and also a lot of times is kind of independently owned and direct to consumer in some cases, but those are the 3 main kind of categories that you could put a micro brand into.
So when I told you I wanted to make this video, you chose 6 brands for us, right? I didn't pick anything. I know we were having the conversation. You wanted me to select, and I said, no. Let's just I want to go into this blindly. So let's walk through each of these brands before we start judging them. So why don't we speak about the first one, Canopy. What can you tell me about Canopy?
Canopy, very interesting brand. So a lot of these brands actually came out of the pandemic, believe it or not, just because people had, income and are very passionate about things. So Canopy is actually a company based in Texas. It's 2 founders, but Mac is my guy. He's the guy that I've been talking to a lot. And something so cool is that they have 2 watches now available, the Diver and a Field that they're just about to release. So what you have right there is what I'm wearing on my wrist, which is the Canopy Wake 1, but this is the stainless steel version. You guys, I believe, have the Midnight edition. And yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I think it's a great value for like $500 and something, less than $600.
Okay, so $500, $600. What kind of movement does this watch have?
It's a Sellita. This is a modified Sellita, and by modified, they actually changed the rotor a little bit. It has a display case back, as you can see. Something super cool about this Diver also, that the bezel insert is carbon fiber, and you get a lot. I mean, it's a 316L stainless steel. I believe that one's been DLC coated. And just specs, like super specs, man. You get sapphire crystal, screw down crown. There's actually a carbon fiber inlay also in the crown, in the little crown. And it's very versatile, right? You could change it up, but I think how it comes is kind of a lot of watch for what you get. And the presentation is really nice as well, like the actual box. And something I will say, and this is for every microbrand we're going to talk about, the cool thing about microbrands is that you actually get to know the owners, right? You become part of a family. Now, if you own a Rolex and Omega, you won't, right? You're just kind of another number of person buying the watch. But that's one of the cool things about the microbrand world. You get to know people, and when you go to meet, so when you see somebody else wearing that watch, you know what's up. You know that they know what's up,
All right, So Canopy, Tony, here we go. Here's the first one. It's $500, okay? You heard the specs. Let's judge it.
It feels like a lot of watch. I'm not gonna lie, the weight is insane, but it feels even. I'm sure it wears even. The design is amazing. I love the carbon fiber. I'm a big fan of the carbon fiber. Super cool. The open back is just, awesome. That's definitely something that looks super cool. And I love that they changed the rotor to a black rotor. I'm looking at, and it's a really cool watch. And for $500-600, the quality feels amazing. You could definitely use this to, I'm sure go fishing or go out to dinner. So
wearability. We're about to try this out. Check this out.
What do you think?
So I just saw something in this design that I thought was great, which is like, how many times do you wear a band and you're like, oh shoot, it's hot outside.
Yep.
Shit just got real.
It just stretched.
And you can't you got to go put an extra link on this, right? So check this out, because I found this really amazing about this watch. You can actually pull it out. It has a runner, but unlike your typical runner, it's just like literally a slide. It's like slip and slide. Take it to the house, slip and slide, take it to the house. You know what I mean? That's how you know we're from Miami, because if you hear the Trick Daddy or Trina,
you know
what I'm saying? But this slip and slide, so wearability. Now this is obviously not sized for my wrist, but
looks great on the wrist.
You know, but it does wear big. How big is this? Is this a 40?
But yeah, it's around 40. But it's very compact. It's almost like a Seiko because the lug to lug is a little bit smaller. What makes it feel big, in my opinion, is the thickness of it, right? And again, I don't know the thickness of it, but if you see the bezel, it does wear a little chunky, you know. But I think it's a lot of watch for what you get for $600, man. Especially with a Swiss movement. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Okay.
I like that.
Rate it. Design.
Design, I'm gonna give them a because it is a little on the thick side. I'm gonna give them, you know, my personal rating. I would give it an 8. I give it an 8 out of 10.
An 8?
An 8 out of 10.
Wow. Okay. All right. Wearability. Put that thing on.
What are you giving this thing? What are you giving this?
Wearability. I give it a solid 5. The bracelet is an interesting bracelet, but it is a thick bracelet, and the way that the links are connected does make it a little. It kind of feels Lego-ish, in a way.
The bracelet does feel a little Lego-ish.
You know, but I do like the runner. I think the runner is great. So, if you gave design, you gave 8.
I give it 8. I like the design.
I'm giving wearability 5, and now utility. Should we throw it against the wall, see if it makes nice? So utility, we're gonna let you judge utility because you've worn this watch. What would you rate utility on this watch?
It's pretty good. I want to say like 8 or 9. It's pretty rugged. Water resistance is amazing. I've had it for a while.
Moving on, we have Flex watches. Tell us about this company.
So Fleux, it's actually a Canadian company, which is kind of brings me into another point about Microbrands. When you think of watches, right, they only really come from, well, not only, but typically Japan, Switzerland, and Germany, right? And of course you have other ones sprinkled here and there, but those are the big countries, right? When it comes to the Microbrand world, it's so cool that all these owners are everywhere, man. Like I could everywhere, literally in the US and Canada, whatever. But this is a Canadian company. A guy's name is Ed. He has a few designs. They all look the same. If you go to the website, they all look the same as far as specs, as far as the case. The only thing he does different is the dial. It's a lot of watch for the money. Less than $500. You get an NH movement. It does have a Hesalite crystal, which is something you either like or don't like. I personally don't like Hesalite. The Speedmaster that I own, I purposely bought a sapphire just because I'm really weird about scratches. But Hesalite has this warmth to the dial, which this has, right? And something cool about this watch, again, it's affordable, it's limited run, so once it's out, once the model is out, he pretty much doesn't make that and then goes on to the next one and to the next one. So it's a cool watch.
It is a cool watch. And you said under $500?
It's less than $500.
So I'll start.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta say for design, you know, it's a little underwhelming, I guess is the word. I'm trying to find the, you know, kind of the inspiration. It seems like a very simple case. It's a fairly thick case. I don't necessarily love the band, but I will say that you know, it is, like, to your point, the glass does give a warm feeling to the dial. I'm going to give this a...
Well, let me interrupt you real quick. So they actually won a design award in 2023, FYI. And the big inspiration for this watch is vintage skin diver watches. That's why it's missing crown guards. It doesn't have crown guards. It's just a straight crown. So that even that case is very reminiscent of like the original Seiko, which was a Seiko 62 MAS. So if you look at it, it has that H style. So that's the inspiration. That's why it feels kind of like simple, kind of, you know, he draws inspiration from vintage skin divers.
That's why I liked it.
Yeah. See, I gotta just talk about my taste.
Yeah.
For my taste, you know, design-wise, I get the inspiration. I get that it was initial, but you know, for what this will do, design, right? We're talking about design. If I'm walking out on the street and you're seeing me wear this, compared to maybe some of the things that we're seeing today, a 3 in design. Tony, wearability.
I'm gonna have to give it to them. And wearability, I personally, I think it wears great. It's not too big. It is a little too thick on the case for me. I like more of a flat style watch, something that sits a little bit flatter. But I do see the beauty in the watch, and you know the details on the edge of the bezel is just phenomenal. So wearability, I'll give them about an 8 as well, because I feel like maybe I could wear this anywhere, any place. I like this one.
Tony's like the dance moms, where they just give high scores for everything. Nobody getting a low score today
and
for Tony.
they're using an NH movement, so I like
when
that.
you were growing up, I just want to find out, did they give you an award for just competing?
Of course.
Okay.
Participation award. That's the only one that I got at the end of the school year.
Miguel, utility. You have one of these. You've worn it. You've used it. Utility. What would you rate this watch?
I'll give it an 8, just because of the Heslite crystal. And again, nothing wrong with that. It's just I'm really weird and paranoid about scratching it. But other than that, it's a great watch, man. Great water resistance. I believe it's 100 meters, 20 millimeter lug, so you could change that strap, which is another thing I don't like about that watch. I've been very vocal about it. Is the cell cloth strap that it comes with, and it's very stiff. So first thing I would do is put it on a NATO or just change the strap. So
I feel I think the design of this would have been highly rated more if it was on a NATO strap. That was one of the other things that I felt like, the strap doesn't do this watch justice.
It doesn't.
I agree with that. It doesn't give it, again, on a NATO strap, like military feeling, utility style watch, it brings out the reason for the design aesthetic of going to the original sub style, full one case. But we rated it. Moving on, talk to me about Vario.
Vario is a really cool, interesting brand. They're near and dear to my heart. So it's a husband and wife duo. It's Ivan and Judy. They're out of Singapore, and they actually started back in 2016. By the way, some of the best leather straps you can buy on the market for like $40 or less than $40. Lex, I think I even told you about them. Really good straps. That should be one of them that they have. But anyway, this duo came out. Obviously, very reminiscent of a Reverso, right? So JLC Reverso, but at a price point that's like less than $500, I believe. Also, the interesting thing about this watch is that each one of the watches actually has its own movement. So there's 2 movements in there, and they're Ronda movements, the 1062, which is a quartz movement. So yeah, each one of those little watches has its own movement. That's why it's one of my complaints that I've had to Ivan. It's a little thick for me, in my opinion. It's a little too thick, but because it's 2 movements, But the technology is super cool that you could flip it around, and it's cool,
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say that for design-wise, I get what you're saying. It's a little thick. But it's a cool watch. Now that you told me that it's 2 movements in one, we were having this conversation yesterday about, sometimes as a GMT, right? Like you can set it and you have to read it. But how crazy would it be if you have a watch that has 3 movements, the local time and 2 different time zones at the same time, right?
That's a GMT watch right there. Yep.
Yeah, so I love the fact that you can really has completely different movements. The sliding motion, which is funny because the JLC motion, sometimes when I move it, I think I'm gonna break the watch. Like on the Reverso, I'm always like, oh, am I doing it too much? Am I scratching it? So this actually is
effortless.
It's effortless, and I like the dial color. I like the design inside the dial. Even the logo design, I think, is really cool. It does offer, 2 very classy designs on this. Does it come in different dial styles?
Oh yeah, different colors, different flavors. It's really cool. Go check them out. And they offer, Vario is very interesting. When you go to their website, everything is retro-inspired. I think Ivan, the owner, really likes that era of like World War I or World War II, like those kind of watches. So this is very reminiscent of that. But yeah, they have different color dials.
I like this. So to me, design-wise, I would give this an 8. I don't think it's too thick. I like the design. What would you give it in wearability?
I'm giving this.
Here we go.
I've been looking at
Dance
this.
Mom, Dance Mom
Moms.
Participation Award.
All right. Just because, by the way, you telling me that it's a husband and wife thing, I mean, that's something that's beautiful. Out of respect, I'm gonna give this a 10 because it's something that I personally would wear probably every day. I'll give it a 10 because it's up my alley. I love the Reverso. Not in the budget right now, so this is a watch that I'd probably be considering picking up soon for myself.
Miguel, utility. What do you think about this watch?
So I don't own this watch, but I did review it when they first launched it. Had a chance to play with it a little bit, but because it is a dress watch and not a tool watch, really like a diver, I will rate it probably like a 7.5. And again, I don't own one, so it's just based on me spending 2 days with it. So
let's move on to this very special one. I gotta say, this one caught my eye since I sat down. Tool watch. Tell me about this company.
So Tool Watch is one of the few watches that you have there that I don't necessarily know the ins and outs like the other ones, just because everything's been communicated with me very corporate. I used to own one of the original owners during COVID. We had him on our podcast, but I think he sold this company to whoever owns it now. But it's very kind of tool-like aesthetic. I think, did you get the white dial, the Lume version?
Yeah, I got the Lume version.
Have you guys seen it in the night?
Production, we need a Lume flashlight because this looks like it's crazy.
It is crazy. It's a quartz watch, right? So it's mecha quartz. I believe is a chronograph. Water resistance is not great on it, but yeah, it's a cool little watch, man. It looks kind of like, I don't know, like a vintage Carrera almost, or like if you want a speedy, it's like a good alternative. But with the Lume dial, they have different dials, but this Lume dial is insane. I just reviewed it on my channel and I was blown away when I turned off the lights, put the Lume. I was like, whoa, that is super cool. So affordable too. I think it's less than $500 if I remember correctly. So
I generally like this watch.
Yeah, I feel like you're getting a lot of watch, and he just said under $500.
I generally like that. I think that the Lume dial is really cool. I like the way that the dial is displayed. I'll be honest. I didn't like when I heard the name Tool Watch. It's probably not the coolest name for me. As far as tool, but I think that it's a really nice watch. It doesn't feel like you're wearing a $500 watch. And again, very well designed, leveled dial. So I think for me, I would give this in design a 8. I'm gonna give this an 8. But I generally love, out of all the watches, when I first sat down, this, like, my eyes went right to this. It feels like nice and rugged, and it feels like it could take a beating, so it doesn't feel like a $500 watch. Oh, here it goes. Here you go. Come on, participation award again.
All right.
Just to be clear, you haven't given any watch under like a 7.
Okay, so if I have to
Under a 7.
if I have to go back,
No, you can't go back. We're past that point.
all right. So since I can't go back, I'm gonna give this one an 8 for wearability.
Oh my Lord!
Kids,
if you're watching at home, just so you understand,
buy this watch.
Yes, definitely buy all these watches.
All of them.
But just to be clear, participation awards are not winning awards, buddy. Miguel, utility, tell us what you were rating this watch.
Something interesting for me when I reviewed this watch, I said the interesting thing for me is that this watch company's called Tool Watch Co., but the watch has less than 100 meters of water resistance for a tool watch, right? And that just didn't make any sense for me. So because of that, I'm gonna give it maybe like a 7.5, for that. Because you can't really, I wouldn't take it diving, right? It'd probably get messed up. I don't know, but kudos for using a mecha quartz movement. So for anybody that doesn't know what that is, it's a mixture between a mechanical movement and a quartz, right? So the cool thing is when you engage the chronograph, it actually feels like a mechanical chronograph. It doesn't feel soft. It feels like you could actually feel it engaged, So that's pretty cool.
So we're moving on to our next watch. Talk to me about this Formex Ceramica skeleton.
So I'll be honest, I haven't seen that one in the metal yet. I haven't seen it in person, but I own a Formex, have had a lot of experience with Formex. So Formex is very interesting. So Formex was actually formed in 1999. It's a Swiss company, but in 2016 it was purchased by Rafael. Right, Rafael's dad actually owns a company in Switzerland called Dexel, and Dexel is actually a watch component manufacturer that makes watch parts for big boys, right? So they don't openly say who they work with, but I've heard through the grapevine, Omega, these big companies. So obviously they do some great products, right? So what they did, they bought this company, started bringing innovation to Formex. Something really interesting you guys are going to notice with that is the case. If you put your finger underneath the case and just push it up, has a spring system. You see that? So that is proprietary to them, and supposedly what it was meant to do, because it was designed for sports, right? The word Formex itself stems from two French words, and I wrote it here. It's basically extreme, and it is forme, which means extreme shape. So they designed it for sports, right? For racing, for motorcycles. So when you move your wrist like this, the case supposed to be, the suspension supposed to go up, right? You get a ton of watch here, guys. So it's about $3,000. It is up there in the ladder, but you get Salida movement, cost certified, right? Fully ceramic watch, the case, the bracelet, crazy specs. So Formex, also a lot of companies buy straps from them. Their straps, which is another whole sector of what they do, is really, really strong for them. And in my opinion, these guys are probably top of the food chain right here.
I have to say I've seen a lot of watch. I've never seen this. Like, we really need production to get a close shot of this, because this is insane.
Yeah,
I have never seen that spring system on a watch. Like, and honestly, to your point, like, I don't normally like the idea of a bracelet that is the same size across the whole bracelet, but the ceramic, the skeletonized dial, you know, it wears comfortable. It wears more comfortable, I would say, than the Canopy. So I'm going to rate this one, design-wise, a 10.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely, like, it's a good-looking watch. And again, like, for someone to design and say, hey, we are going to do something different. We're going to create a spring system at the core of the case. That is incredible. The only thing that I would do different is probably the way that the bracelet is, because I think this is such a nice watch that if you made the bracelet a little less thick and heavy, it would make it feel more unique and more special. So now on wearability, sir?
I'm gonna have to give it a 10.
Double 10s?
I'm gonna have to give it a 10. Like, I'm not gonna lie, we haven't ran through all of these. I did look at them a little bit. The only thing I would say, I would agree, buckle's a little thick for me. Yeah. So is the band, but the actual, case itself is incredible. They took their time with this, and it looks rugged.
Miguel, utility. What are we rating this watch? Because you got one of these. You've been rocking it, not the specific one, right?
No, not this one, not the ceramic. If we're talking utility-wise, definitely like a 9. Well, I'll give it a 10, just to not poo-poo on the parade. Just because of how fantastic it is. And just to touch to your point about the tapering on the bracelet, I agree with you 100%. They should taper it. However, that one also has on-the-fly adjustment system for the clasp. Something unique the Formex does also is next to the case, they have this quick release system that's like a button. And they have a plethora of different strap options on their website. And they have carbon fiber clasp that they sell that have this really cool, unique system as well. They didn't include it, I don't think, in the package, but it's crazy, man. Like, if you see Formex, like, I recommend you guys see some other watches aside from this one. Also, so this is called the Essence, right? It's part of their Essence line. They have an Essence 39. So if you think that one's too big at 42, they actually make it smaller, but not in ceramic. They make it in stainless steel.
For being a 42, that does not wear like a 42.
I actually don't wear big watches, and I think that was amazing. Moving on to what I want to say, one of the most interesting watches that you have picked out for us today. I wasn't sure how I felt about this, but tell us about the José Cermeño, very interesting watch. And did I say that right? I want to make sure I get the name right. Cermeño?
So it's called José Cermeño, and he's actually a Canadian guy, but he's Hispanic. So he speaks French, but Spanish, and it's interesting talking to him, but he's a cool guy, man. So small guy, I don't know how many people he has on his team. I think it's just him. The cool thing about this is that he was a valet driver, right? That was his job. And he got inspired. The dial was the inspiration for that was exotic cars. So like, think of a Lamborghini, right? They have the stitching. Look at the dial, right? Do you see how it has the triangle kind of pattern? The dial is actually made from leather. which is interesting. So the same leather used in the dial is the same leather used on the strap. This watch is upwards of almost $2,000, but it does have a Salida movement in it, stainless steel, very beautiful, kind of dressy watch. But I thought, when I first saw it, I was like, this is the most unique thing I've ever seen. I never seen a watch with a leather dial. That's crazy. So this is the unique feature of this guy.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the dial being leather. I will say that it makes it interesting, right? To your point, like if we're going to talk about standing out, taking a risk, doing something different, and trying it out, I mean, I could only imagine getting that piece of leather to stay still and not like react to the heat, or shrink or change. I wonder how this watch patinas over time, So I'm really interested to see how this watch actually, reacts to true wearability and utility, which I'll let you guys judge. What I will say that I didn't like were the lugs being longer than where the strap goes. So like you see they stick out on the top. I didn't love that. I think there's no reason for that. You could have the lugs be smaller, or have the band sit a little back, but I think just it feels weird. It feels like it got like two horns on each side, a little too much. I will give this watch a 6. I give it mostly because of the fact he took a massive risk on doing leather inside the dial. I do like how the name brand sits on top of the glass. I think that is beautiful and classy. I honestly, legit would like to buy one of these watches just to have it sit outside and use it and see how the leather inside reacts. But because I think it'd be really interesting test, right? Like maybe it becomes something super, super amazing, and it patinas in a way where the leather like reacts and cuts and has some character to it.
Well, something I want to say now that Tony's looking at it, something really interesting about this dial is that he actually gets somebody to make a brass dial with little holes in it, and what he does, he puts the leather, and he himself stitches the leather onto the brass dial and then mounts it to the watch, and then that his name that you see, José Cermeño, whatever, says sapphire piece that sits on top of the leather piece. So it's crazy. It's like layer upon layer. But yeah, I don't know how you take care of it. Maybe armor all, open it up, and just kidding. Don't do that.
All right, so you know what I give it in design. What do you give it in wearability?
I'll give it a 6.
Oh wow! First one.
Wow.
It's just for me.
Are you feeling
it's
okay?
Not, yeah, no, I mean,
a little water.
I'm good. I just,
okay.
I gotta be real. Yeah, I did feel everything else about this watch.
Rebel gives you wings, right?
Oh,
okay, just in case. Just making sure.
No. I have my Rebel on the side, but as I do enjoy the watch, it's a beautiful watch. I'm not taking anything away from it. Wearability, I don't see when I would wear this watch, at least for me. It's for me personally, it's not 100% there. Would I wear it? Yes, I would wear the watch. I'd wear it in a suit. I'd wear it, with a long sleeve dress shirt, something nice. I love the bold move with the leather. That's awesome. But for me personally, wearability, I don't see it for me. It's just not something that's in my alley. That's just the truth.
Miguel, utility.
Man, this is tough. I mean, I don't know how the thing is gonna patina, how the dial is gonna patina. So based on the specs on paper, I'll give it a 7, man. But again, it's just a dress watch. And something I gotta say about wearability, Tony, is for me it's at a little tall. But I get it, right? Because there's so many layers. But it just feels like the rehod, which is kind of like the middle portion, it's a little empty for me. It's a little too high. So if he could slim it down somehow a little bit, I think it would be better. And also the lugs, slim them down, right? Slim down the lugs to make it a little bit more wearable, more, I don't know, dress watchy.
6 watches. Here's how they stacked up. We got 6 watches today. We got Miguel giving us the details. We judged them on design, wearability, and utility. Drum roll, please. Now it's clear that the winner is the Formex. But here is the thing.
Yep.
We're talking about a $2,000 watch. I have a feeling, as amazing as it is, you gotta disqualify it. Because at a $2,000 price point,
Come on.
compared to 3 other watches at $500 each.
Yeah, that it can't even sit at the same table.
But I'll tell you what, after testing it all, the Formex is the winner.
Yeah.
I think, obviously it's a $2,000 watch, just so we clear it. But great design. The spring service, it's just, I mean, I've never seen that.
Yeah, no, that's
I can't believe.
That blew me away.
Miguel, has any other watch had this movement in it, this function in it?
Not that I could think of, and I think this is proprietary to them, so it's super cool.
All right.
I like
There
that.
you have it, Formex. Miguel, thank you so much for joining. It's been an amazing conversation with you. Thank you for picking these amazing microbrands for us. I've
get to
enjoyed
keep
this
these?
video. I don't think we get to keep them,
Oh, we're not there yet.
but we're from Miami, so we could low key. I mean, at the end of the day, it was Miguel who reached out. So
Sorry,
I'm just
Miguel.
saying, Miguel.
I don't know what happened.
Hey
Yeah.
man, lose my number. See you on the next one. You from LA? You could just say you were putting them out in the mail, and they just.
Yeah, I get the bill. Lex, Tony, what do I do with this? Honestly, I'm really happy to highlight Microbrands. Everybody in the watch world talks about the big Rolex and Omega and whatever, right? But not a lot of people talk about Microbrands. It's the type of thing that if you know, you know. And I'm glad that a lot of people that are in the hobby are discovering these brands. And yeah, just go support your local Microbrand, whoever you like. There's tons of them. So
There you have it, another episode of 0 to 60. And if you're shopping for your own first real watch, these are some real options. Make sure you follow Miguel at SoCal Watches. Make sure you follow Tony. Make sure you follow the 0 to 60 lifestyle page. We love doing these videos for you. Miguel, shout out to you for joining us today. And of course, poof.